Hey, Phil, did you buy a plug for that iPad of yours for the car? I can't hear a thing you're saying, Phil.
Yeah, I had one that had 3 ends on it.
Yeah.
One of those 3 ends would plug into here.
Huh?
I just didn't know it. The other one I had.
Hopefully, I don't know. This meeting, I don't think it'll go that long myself. Hopefully, it won't go 2 hours, maybe an hour.
Oh, I'm all set. Got you covered.
Yeah. You got a full charge, or you do have a plug?
Yeah, I got a plug.
All right, good deal. Good. Well, then we're ready. We can go.
It'll take 3 hours. I don't care.
It'll take what it'll take, is what I say when people ask me.
There you go. I'm waiting for October 10th to get here.
Well, yeah, I saw that. I think it was October 9th is what her rule takes effect, isn't it? I was thinking, not all the boards on here yet, but I'm thinking October 6th, our study session, we should just do it on 5 and move forward. What's a couple days?
Well, no, this is something different.
Oh, something different. Oh, I thought you were talking about our study session.
It's going to be a study session. She's a project manager on some big motel they're building in Cairo. And she's retiring, and she's going to be in Florida October 10th.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to go there, Phil. You're going to want to let that one go. This is not the place. Not the place to have that conversation.
You got the budget all figured out?
All depends on you.
It don't depend on me.
Now the budget's figured. Figured frontwards and backwards, so we'll see.
Depends how much capital funds you have, huh? Capital improvement.
It all depends. Funds. We'll see. Yeah. It depends on what the SRI as well. So.
Mm-hmm. When are they going to decide on that?
Well, it's all back to the townships now. They should be talking about it at their meetings and voting up and down and such.
Okay. So we should know by the 15th.
Mike, is the SRI agreement proceeding as last reviewed?
Yeah, I believe so. There was only, what was it?
You haven't let the city get involved, have you?
No. That's not a part of the SRI, our agreement. That's what is it? The LRUA is talking to the city about potential side deal, but it has nothing to do with the SRI. Not really. It doesn't have anything to do with our agreement. Mr. Chair, are you here?
I'm right here. I'm looking right at you. Dave's got his tie on.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't have a tie on. I actually forgot I had a meeting today. Can you imagine that?
Rodney's wearing his flannel, so we're all good.
We're all good.
I found a quiet place in the basement to be able to meet. So yeah.
All right. I could make a comment about that basement hiding out, but I won't. It's up to you, Mr. Chair. It's 4 o'clock.
I see Amanda's here too, so we can go ahead and get started. I was in the process of loading the meeting from board docs.
Do we have Daniel present? I didn't see his name or picture here. Or Darius?
I don't know. I thought everybody was here.
I think we're missing Daniel and Darius according to my screen.
Yeah, according to mine, I agree. I've not heard anything from them. Amanda?
Well, shall we call roll and get started? They can join us.
Go either way, that just leaves the door open for arguments too.
Okay,
I guess the only thing I would ask is make sure that everyone mutes their mic when they're not talking, so we don't get to listen to the Lions game. Amanda, would you like to take the roll?
yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bear,
Present.
Commissioner Walls,
Present.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Duckham. I can see Commissioner Duckham. Commissioner Plesky,
Here.
Commissioner Mahoney. Don't see him on yet. Commissioner Williams. Don't see him either. Commissioner Elwell,
I'm here, Amanda.
thank you. Chairman Shotwell.
I'm present.
Okay, 7
to-
present.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Elwell, supported by Commissioner Duckham. I saw thirds and fourths from Walls and Bear. So we're all in favor of starting the meeting. Could I hear someone all in favor, please?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Duly carried. Do we have public comment, Michelle?
While there's no public comment, I will entertain the board by saying, let's not torture ourselves listening for the Lions game. Thank you.
Somebody actually listens to that?
After 45 years, they won.
So since we're complete with public comment, Administrator Controller Michael Overton, your show.
Thank you. I would like to start, because we have a number of attachments, Amanda. Let's start with the general fund department's budget cuts. This we reviewed last time. And if you could put it up on the screen, please.
That would be Michelle.
Yes, Michelle. Did I say Amanda? I'm sorry.
You
I
did.
misspoke. Michelle. Yes. Okay. And hopefully everyone's had opportunity to look at this. Again, as we discussed last time, there's just a few little updates here I wanted to point out to everyone. I see equalization. I believe we did not have their final number last time. They're able to cut it roughly a little over $36,000 is what they're looking at there, which is, hey, every dollar counts. Prosecuting attorney number changed just briefly, just a little. It went up, the grant amount went up a little bit. Although at this time, we have spoke to him again today, he has not got confirmation on that. We did ask him about his plan B, just to confirm that his plan B is still his plan. So if he does not receive this grant, he will move to plan B, which will be to reduce some of his staff. He's made a commitment to that. So I told him that's fine. We don't have to approve the budget until, well, we don't plan to ask the board to approve the budget until, the second meeting in October, which I think is October 20th or something like that. So he's got time, but since their budget is supposed to be an October 1 budget, the state is an October 1 budget, and therefore the funding that he's counting on is supposed to be in that budget. I would think that he would be receiving some kind of confirmation that that's money's available to him rather quickly. So we will see. The MIDC credit, I think you guys are familiar with that one. That was, we received funding from MIDC for 2 corrections officers that was in the, that came out of the jail. So that's a positive for us. And then finally, the retiree health costs. That is, in fact, that's something we should go ahead and just talk about. And in all honesty, I just soon you guys give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, because coming up to the public hearing, next week, I'd like to have that budget finalized, and then we'll just do the public hearing. We'll walk in with best we have a completed budget. So any discussion, further discussion on the item would be now. Well, actually, Richard, are you on here? Let's have Richard, assuming he's on here. Is anybody, Deborah, is Richard on here?
Mike, I got a question. This is Tony.
Hang on, Tony. Let me have Richard go first. Is it regard to this or something else?
Yeah, the revenue sharing, you still show that as 500,000. Haven't we gotten word yet from the state on?
We
Revenue sharing
do.
fees?
I didn't want to change this particular document just because I'd have to go through and explain, but yes, we're getting the 500,000. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm confident that'll be there. So really 2.9 is really like 2.4. So we're well on our way there. But Richard, if you'd be kind enough to review with the board exactly what the proposal is and the implications so that they all understand it clearly, and then we'll take any and all comments, board questions, and then ultimately thumbs up, thumbs down, and we'll move forward.
Okay,
Richard?
yes, everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
And Michelle, if you would take the screen down so we can see everyone. Thank you.
okay, the proposal is two pieces. And so we'll separate the two. Pre-65 retirees, increasing their deductible to $250 annually, which gets in line with the actives. So going out active into retirement would be the same. The other piece is to consider whether or not we get everyone on the same drug card. Now, this is post-65 retirees. So I want to preface it by saying these are two different insured arrangements. So you can do one and not the other, or not both, or both, approve both, but they are two different insured arrangements. The pre-65 folks are with Blue Cross and our insured arrangement there. Post-65 folks are with our Veripro, who's our third party who manages United American, who has the Medicare supplement plan, and Humana, who has the drug card.
Richard, what are the financial implications to that?
Richard, is there a document I can open up to follow what the numbers you're reading?
We had that last time. I'm not sure what they have this time.
That document is not on here. I believe you have it though, if you're in your email. I'm trying to remember. Oh, don't remember.
All right, save me the time.
So the numbers are, Commissioner, an estimated savings for the pre-65 change with Blue Cross would be approximately 54,000. And the estimated change for the post-65 change in the drug card would be 110. That's why we said approximately 165,000 total. And then there's the piece that is for the general fund that is less than that, the general fund impact. Because this includes everyone, including JC Dot. And the general,
Earl has a question.
the
So
general
just to,
impact would be
just to-
110, Commissioner.
just to summarize what the increase in cost to any one retiree would be, as to a pre-65 retiree would be $250 a year. And as to a post-65 retiree, it would be the difference between their current drug copay and $10 per prescription times however many prescriptions they get in a year. Would that be a fair description, Richard?
Well, it is for a maximum, Commissioner, but depending upon what the copay would be, if you went and got drugs for $4 copay, that's what you would pay. Remember, the $10 is a maximum. So right now they're currently $3 maximums and $5 maximums. And if something is $6, they would pay the $6. If something's $4, they would pay the $4.
Worst case scenario.
Worst
But
case, $10.
That's the maximum exposure that any one retiree would have.
Per script, that's correct.
Per month.
Well, it depends on how many scripts, Mike.
Continue, Richard.
So in just to summarize, those are the two that we're recommending. We do think that our plans are still very lucrative, a very good coverage. You can, like I said, because they are separate insured arrangements, you can do one or both, or neither.
Okay, questions? I see Commissioner Elwell has his hand up.
You sound surprised, Mike. Mine are just some of the same points that I made before, not really questions. And I do appreciate your having sent out the information on some of the retiree benefits. And I was just going through highlighting a couple of them, and you can see for some of the retirees, their monthly amount is pretty low without mentioning any names with it. I mean, I'm looking at one that's $343 a month, $264 a month, $383 a month, $234 a month, and the list goes on. And some are substantially more than that, but I still am not supportive of our balancing our budget on the backs of the retirees, whether post or pre-65. And Mike, to be clear, what you're trying to accomplish is to obviously cut the budget, that you're trying to improve our position on the capital improvement fund, essentially. Is that accurate?
I would agree with that statement. We're more or less balanced. It's just that any additional savings would go towards capital side, yes.
Right. So you've mentioned, or I heard mentioned, the revenue sharing, which is 500,000, that we're believing it'll probably remain intact. The SRI is another 400,000, correct? That we think will probably remain intact, which is 900,000 that will go towards capital improvement. And would you agree also that if not for the Raffaelli ruling on tax foreclosed properties, we likely would not be in this position of having to replace what we use for the capital improvement fund?
Correct.
And we have been following state law with tax foreclosures all along. And really, I think everyone was hopeful that the state would come up with a solution to replace that with, but that hasn't been forthcoming. Who knows if it will or not. But again, I just refuse to break the promise that the retirees were made to fund the capital improvement. And I'll be voting no on it if these things remain in it. It's such a small portion. We've got what's it amount to, a $40 million budget in the end, ballpark, and you're talking 163,000 in total, which small amount, but it's not to some of these people that draw less than $400 a month in a pension from us. So I'll be voting no on it if it remains, both those things. Thank you.
I believe, let me see here. I believe Earl has his hand up. Hello, sir. And then Phil, after that.
Thanks, Mike. And with all respect to my good friend, Commissioner Elwell, there are a number of backs who have involvement in our budget. And among the backs are taxpayers. And so I'm fully cognizant of the costs that retirees must bear. But I think that to make the adjustments that have been suggested by the administration is to bring everybody to the same sort of a plan, similar to what our current employees get, and which is still, even after making these changes, a pretty excellent plan. And I think in many respects better than what is seen in the private sector. So with all respect to my good friend, Commissioner Elwell, who I still will love after this, we're going to respectfully disagree on the need to do this. Thank you.
I believe Phil had his hand up.
Yeah, as I said last meeting, we made promises. Promises made, promises should be kept. And, you know, it's such a pittance, but when a person is making $393 a month, it'd be quite a jolt to their budget to force their medicine up. Now we have to possibly have people choose between eating or taking their medicine. And when you make a promise, you gotta keep it. I would have no problem with people now that are getting ready to retire being tied to current and active health insurance programs, and with the understanding that that's how it's going to work. But when we made a promise, we've lived up to it for probably 40 years. I can't go back on our promise. So I'll be voting no.
I believe Corey was next. Anyone else in the queue? Okay, Corey, please. And then Tony, I believe.
Mike, you mentioned something about funding coming in for the sheriff's department right at the beginning of this meeting.
Oh, the MIDC credit?
Yes.
Yes, MIDC felt that they could fund or should fund 2 corrections officers. So those are monies that being offset there.
So what we had heard last week in regards to losing 2, that won't have to happen. Is that what, am I understanding that?
No, I don't believe that's the case. Right,
Okay.
Deborah? Yeah, no, we're staying with the other numbers. This here just it comes out to the MIDCs.
Okay.
Money.
And in regards to the insurance, I have similar sentiments to Commissioner Pileski. You know, we hate to see cuts for anybody, but I feel it's still a very, very good plan. In fact, better than most in the private sector for sure. I am concerned, though, Commissioner Duckham talks about promises made, and I want to make sure that was anyone actually ever promised that by a person in the position of authority at the county level?
I can't speak to what someone did say or not say, but I can tell you what counts is what the contract language and things of that sort say. It's not in there.
It's not in the collective bargaining agreement.
No.
Thank you.
Mike, can I comment on that?
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Steve and I have both been around a long time. We've had these conversations often through the years, and there are many retirees that will tell you that they were made those promises. And I think that there are some through the years that have, in fact, produced a document to that effect. And, you know, we are talking about both collective bargained and non-collective bargained. So if you talk to retirees, you'll hear out there that some were in fact told that. And I think in the past, we've been shown a copy of a document that some were given, or there was a document spoke of.
I believe Tony has that.
Well, just,
Oh, go ahead. Wait a minute, Tony, please.
you wouldn't have
Mr.
to have
Kennedy.
a copy of that, would you?
No, Corey, I wouldn't, but I bet it wouldn't take much to get it this week yet, probably. I have not, I typically hear from retirees. I think Chairman Shotwell does too. I have not heard from any recently on this issue. And it's probably because most don't follow us on Zoom here in our meetings, but, and I'll make an effort to see what's out there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bear, Commissioner Bear.
Yeah, I haven't been here as long as you guys, some of you guys have. Appreciate your years. But short time I've been here, I've been told there are certain documents. I go to look for them, then I find out, no, they don't exist. I've been told several times that, yes, there's a written policy for something, and then find out later that no, there really isn't. So I'm not ready to go with, well, somebody told us there was a written promise. I want to see it. Get the paper out here. I'm not sure where I fall on this particular issue yet, but I don't like somebody claiming there was a document that says X. Give me a copy of it. Give all of us a copy of it so we can see it. And secondly, the items that Martinchuk has been reading from, you said it was on a previous email. So I went back to Mike's report. And is that what you're referring to? This Friday update and the files that were attached at the bottom of it? Am I looking at the proper report here?
Are you asking me?
Anybody that can tell me.
I think there should be, you guys should have a staff report from Richard that kind of went through and spelled it out, I believe.
A staff report from Richard.
Yeah, a few weeks back. Anybody recall that?
All right, then I'll go back further in my emails and look for that because I'd like to see that document. I would have preferred that document be attached to today's agenda so they're all in one place so I can see them all easily. But I'll go hunt for Richard's email. You say, Mike, a week or two ago?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, here, let me look at my.
Okay,
own.
I'm looking for it.
Anyone else have questions, concerns, or wants to speak to this topic? I would tell you that I haven't seen this document that we're speaking of here. I've heard of such things, but at the same time, this is not the first time we've made changes to retiree healthcare, is it not?
We have made changes previously. All of this has been vetted with outside counsel over the years before I was here and now just recently. And the last change was in 2017 and 18 when we went to a different program and consolidated all of the retirees under the current plan as a $100 deductible. There have been changes made.
Yeah, there's been changes that had an adverse financial effect as well, have they not?
Correct.
I would have thought that document would have been relevant and be produced by now, if there was such a document. That's why I say I haven't seen it. Yes, Commissioner Elwell.
Mike, I know one of the things that we've changed is from the actual carriers. We've gone from what, United to Blue Cross and Blue Cross to United, but it's been essentially the same program, just changing carriers. And I personally don't have an issue with that if it's the same or like coverage, which it has been. And I want to reinforce what Commissioner Duckham said, that I have advocated for change for a very long time. I put it in an email to all the commissioners. As an example, I think we were too giving of healthcare for retirees when we offered it to them after 15 years of service. And I argued for years and years that we should be stopping that benefit for future retirees. Granted, they were paying a small portion of it, but we eventually did work that out. And I don't have a problem changing healthcare benefits for retirees, but future benefits, not for current retirees that may not have the ability to increase their income to cover for it. So thank you.
I understand. Other questions? Well, first, Richard, it's your staff report. Instead of me looking through my email to find it, would you just send it to the commissioners? That way they just can have
I'll send it
please?
now.
Thanks. Thank you. Other questions, concerns, comments?
Mike, to be clear, that staff report that you're talking about of Richard's, I think was forwarded during our last meeting. Is that the one?
Yeah, there's only the one staff
Right.
report there.
That
And
should be this. That should be the one, Commissioner.
Thank you. And is that to address that very issue at standing committees, at our next standing committee? That's how I took it. It was dated in that way.
Yes, it was dated for the October 12th standing committee.
Okay. Thank you.
That's correct. We were looking to take it in, just do it in October there, but I'd rather, if people feel comfortable voting up or down, I'd rather just resolve that issue. And I can walk into the public hearing with a clean budget at that point. It doesn't have to wait. I don't know how unless people aren't comfortable, well, then that's fine. It can wait. But otherwise, whatever you guys want to do. Is everyone here?
I don't see Darius here.
Okay.
But Mike, to be clear, you can get by without this 163,000. It's just that much less for capital improvement, correct?
Correct. As the budget currently stands, that would change our capital improvement contribution from general fund to capital improvement would be about $178,000, right around there. As the budget is currently written, drafted.
Thank you.
If you remove that. Earl, please.
Well, just to get something on the table, I will move to include the retiree changes that have been proposed by the administration in the budget hearing when it is conducted in October. And I would
Is there
welcome
a
a second.
support?
I didn't hear anything. What was that?
I did not hear a second. I'm going to declare it died for lack of support. Thank you, Earl. Think the message then is clear, Mike.
I'm not sure what the message is. Right now,
The message is very simple. You got to pull the 161 out of capital.
okay. Okay. Let's see. Motion to leave it in. No, second died. Okay, I'm good. Moving on then. We will close this one out, Michelle. And I would like to move to the next one, which is General Fund Budget Summary. And if you could bring that one up, please.
Which one is it, Mike?
The second, the third one on there, I believe, General Fund Summary.
And
This-
other,
Pardon?
general fund and other?
General Fund, yes.
I'm working on getting the right one.
Okay. This one, it's 4 pages. It starts off with General Fund revenue. And it'll go, in the end, it'll go to all funds, but we'll work through this.
What one do you want, Nick? I'm sorry. Which document do you want open?
General Fund and other funds budget summary.
It was the third one in that group, Michelle.
Correct. Yeah. All right. There it is. And if you could make it as large as you can there, but this one takes us through every department in the general fund, and you can see under the revenue, this first page is the revenues there. I guess I would ask, are there questions or concerns, anything you'd like to discuss or us to review more fully with you on that? And I can't see everyone, so you'll have to just speak up.
Mike, this is Tony.
Go ahead, sir.
Where does the Parks Fund show up in this?
That will be, we'll get down on page
millage.
3 is where you'll see that. That's not part of general fund.
Because they have a millage that they're operating under?
That's correct.
Okay,
General
well
fund
then my other question then, or follow-up question, is the very first document that was in the on the agenda here, 36 capital budget 2021.
We'll get to the capital budget. Right now, I want to focus on this one here, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions, anyone? Okay, we'll move to the expense side of the equation for general fund. And it's not that we haven't reviewed this, it's just another opportunity though to get more into the weeds. If anyone has any questions about any of these numbers, I think on this one here, the one number that jumped out to me that I think on it's page 2 is at the bottom. It's the 844,000 transfers in and out. That's always a big number, and it's, you know, it's kind of like transfers in and out. That's a big number. What is all that? And remember, that's all the monies the general fund sends to, you know, childcare fund and all these other different departments where we have to help fund them, be it the health department or otherwise. And we can go down that, we can go through that list if you'd like. Otherwise, I'm open to any questions in regard to this.
Mike, this document has not changed substantially from last time, correct?
Correct. you'll notice the bottom total is a little bigger. It was, I think, like 8,000. Now it's 42,000.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
About a month, maybe 2 months ago, Commissioner Bear made a suggestion about commissioners potentially suspending their conference travel budget for a year to help get a little extra money. Is that in that expense there?
The commissioner's budget, all of the expenses are in there. We didn't remove anything from there. I would add, though, generally speaking, you guys hardly ever spend any of that money. There's only, it's there available for you if you choose to go to a conference or some training or something to that effect. But generally speaking, maybe 1, 2, 3 of you, I've never seen anything. I don't think I've had more than 3 people go to or spend any significant dollars there. So it's there,
Mike,
but I don't really anticipate you guys spending it.
Mike, I think I'm sorry, this is Daniel.
Hello, Daniel.
I think I'm the only one who's gone to any conferences from this board outside of maybe somebody going to MAC. I don't think anybody else really uses their budget, so I don't know how helpful that would be, because that money, if not used, it just goes back to the general. It goes back to the general fund anyway, correct?
Correct. It stays in the general fund and ends up in our fund balance year end.
Okay, fair enough. You know, I'm just looking, obviously, we're not gonna take 164,000 off, so I'm just looking other ways, but if there's not much there to save, then there's not much there.
So
Well, on
so
this,
everyone also understands, we're going into a new commission. With that, we could have as many as 2 or 3 new commissioners that may need to go to the MAC orientation. I know some commissioners in the past haven't attended the MAC orientation, and takes them a little bit to get up to speed. Sometimes it's a good idea to do it as a refresher course, but then there's also the MAC conference in the spring, where a lot of state budgetary items and discussions are made to help set policies. And that's one way for boards and county boards of commissioners to speak with our legislature with a voice through MAC. So sometimes that money being spent on going to the MAC conference in Lansing or wherever the summer conference is can be very, very beneficial to our organization. I think we can look at some of the different projects in the past, whether it be the shared help that we were able to get when Commissioner Leitner was here and then became Representative Leitner. So there is some real advantages to that. There also is to commissioners who can afford the time to serve on MAC committees, because they're very important to us as a county. So that's one reason to lobby for that money. Training is important, and just a thought for future commissioners to think about what they could use some of that training dollars.
Commissioner Bear?
if that money is not utilized for conferences and such, how and when is it transferred back into the general fund so it can be used for other purposes?
Well, it is, your budget is in the general fund, so it never leaves the general fund unless you actually spend it. So what happens is at the end of the year, any monies that are in these departments here that aren't spent, they just stay in the general fund. They're just in our fund balance. So if you don't spend it, it stays in a fund balance.
If those funds are not allocated for a different purpose, how can they be used for a different purpose?
Money only gets moved to a different purpose if you vote to agree to move it to a different purpose.
Okay, so if we leave money in the conference fund and we don't make a motion to move it to something else, it just never gets moved.
It stays in the general fund.
Not true, Tony. Not true. At the end of the year.
I'm just asking for a clarification. I'm not making an
Right. No, I know, but not true, because in December, it gets all swept into the general fund and a new pot of money is placed in the conference fund. It doesn't carry over and carry over and carry over and carry
No.
over for 22 years that money's laying in there. It gets swept to zero and then rebudgeted the next year.
Mhm.
Okay, so you don't have $800,000 laying in that fund.
No, but if we put, basically there's $27,000 in that. And if at the end of the year, there's still 26,000 in it, what is necessary to say, nobody used it in that fund and now we want it to go to health department? How does it get out of one allocation into another allocation? Do we make a motion on it and vote on it?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so if we don't
yes,
make a
yes,
motion,
but let me qualify that, Mike.
It'd be a budget
Yes.
adjustment.
But what occurs in the past has been commissioners have made suggestions to move that money around. And it's gone to the administrator controller's office so that he can show us what the impact is of moving that money.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't just think, Mike, even though we could do it, don't just think that, come October 1st, we're gonna empty the commissioner's travel account and use it to fund new golf carts for the golf course. Well, we may
Agreed.
decide to do that. We're gonna ask your office to give us the pro and cons of both of that. Because that money could be allocated for something else that's more needed. That we're looking
Okay,
at in the
so in our
following
case,
year.
yeah.
so
So,
our
yeah, Tony-
administrator controller could come to us and say, here's my suggestion, or any commissioner could bring up the discussion and propose moving it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but what we'd like to do, Tony, is move that back, move the discussion to the administrator controller's office to give us the legitimacy for doing that, and then come back so that way we've had the professionals review it. That's all.
And just because you move money over to a department doesn't mean they are going to spend it. It might end up just in their fund at the end of the year. If they don't spend it, it just accumulates in their fund, which we try to avoid accumulation of those funds like that. But yeah, that's how just to elaborate a little bit, we do budget adjustments routinely. And it varies by community. Some places like to do it quarterly. Some people, I've seen them do it all at the end of the year, which is a nightmare because if you don't do it routinely, every month that goes by, your numbers are out of whack and you're really not sure where you are. At some point you go, well, wait a minute. Or we just do it quarter or monthly as we need to, if we need to make a change, be it revenue or expense, so that when Cecilia reports the financials to you every month, it's an accurate reflection of not only what we've spent, but where we are in our budget itself, the plan. So we like to do it that way. But other questions in regard to this page 2 here? Phil, please.
If we sweep the money out of the accounts back into the general fund,
That's what happens.
okay, why didn't that happen down at the health department when we found a bunch of money there and it accumulated?
The health department is not in the general fund. Only thing that happens is all the departments that are in general fund, they're all in that fund. So it's it's like your savings account at home. If you don't spend money in your savings, if you don't spend the money you had planned to spend out of your savings account, it just stays in your savings account. Our general fund's the same way. If a general fund department doesn't spend the money, it just stays in general fund. Whereas once you do a transfer out, and you see we do $844,000 of it, that goes off to another fund. And then if they don't spend it, it stays in their fund. And then we rectify it the following year.
Okay.
Anyone else? I can't see everyone, so by all means, just speak up if you need to. Moving on to page 3, now we are talking about all funds. So you'll see the first line on page 3 of Michelle. There you go.
Mike, you mean
The
document 3,
first
not
line says,
document 3, you mean, Mike, not page 3?
well, I think
Or is it
it's
both?
it's the document 3, but it's page 3 of the document 3.
Okay,
It's the one that says, it's got the funds, Fund 101, General Fund, first one,
Got it.
yeah. So this first line of spreadsheet right here represents the other 2 pages you're looking at, the general fund. So the general fund all boils down there, and you can see general fund budgeted for 2021 is $45 million and change there, 45.3. That represents a $42,000 increase over budgeted 20. And now looking on down, you see transportation has a significant number. Hey, Christopher, could you share with the board what the $20 million reduction represents? I know what it is, but if you just give them a quick overview.
One moment, Mike. I'm trying to get my screen straight here.
Sure.
Got to get back to the shared screen so I can see it.
Because, you know, it's a very significant number. And of course, causes people to go, whoa, what is that?
I can't get to the screen, Mike, but ask the question verbally again if you could. The 23.
In your fund in 19, you spent actually a little over 60 million. In 20, I'm looking at revenue actually right now, the first page. We had revenue of 60 million, revenue of 63 million is anticipated in 20. And in 21, we're anticipating a reduction of $20 million. And what does that represent?
Sure. We issued bonds last year. So those were in 2019, those were 20 some million. And this year was a record breaking year where we basically spent on a large proportion of those bonds, potentially all of them, depending how the projects go and the weather goes over the next month or so. So when we look at our 2021 budget, we assumed that we're back to basically ground zero with our normal budget, and assuming that we're working pretty much solely on Blackman's local roads in combination with our grant funded projects. So we're kind of easing back into a normal budget. Still a heavy workload, but that $43 million of revenue includes our MTF plus our grants plus the Blackman projects and other townships that are out there. Now, if Grass Lake's millage effort passes here in November, we're already going to be amending next year's budget. It's going to fatten back up by quite a bit. We might be back closer to 60 million again.
So in large part, a completion of the township projects, be it Summit and the like.
Correct. That's right. We're getting things done.
Okay.
Online.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
I got a
Public
question on
improvement
that.
building. Yeah, go right ahead, Mr. Bear, Commissioner Bear.
Chris, I want to make sure I understood you right. You said this year we're primarily working on Blackman Township. What services are the other townships getting?
We've been equally serving all townships that have requested projects. So Spring Arbor is nearly complete, but might have one road left next year because it's one of our detour routes for the McDivitt project. So McDivitt is a priority, but any and all townships who come forward with funds to provide per our local match policy of 70-30, they're getting equal love and attention from us. So only Blackman next year, plus anyone else who comes forward with projects. So those,
Okay.
Tony,
we haven't
Thank you.
worked out all those agreements.
yeah. I'll just
Isn't
chime
it-
in there briefly. Tony, is like the last few years, Summit's received a lot of our attention. They received a lot of our attention because they passed a millage to pay for all their roads to be redone, as did Spring Arbor before them, and now, of course, Blackman. So when Blackman puts up millions of dollars to do the roads, we do the roads. And if Grass Lake does the same, they would get a lot more focus next year as well, which is how it works. But otherwise, we do maintenance and everything in all the townships equally. We aren't choosing one winner over another. They're all equally important to us. Commissioner Elwell.
Mike, isn't it true that when the townships bond for road repairs like that, they only have a certain number of or a certain amount of time to spend the money?
3 years.
Right. Thank you.
Now that's 3 years to spend the bonds down on their part. We have actually as much time as we need to complete the projects. The township just needs to have spent their bonds within 3 years, to be clear.
So, okay. I'm missing something on that one, Christopher. Do they give you the money? Is that called spending it down, or, and then you can take 5 years, or how's that work?
Well, like in Spring Arbor's case, they have spent all their money easily this year. That we've sent them their last bill, but we still have a couple of projects to do. It's part of our local match, the 30%.
Okay, so they're fronting it a little bit to make sure they meet the 3 years, and then it may take us a couple more years to get it done. Got it.
We
All
actually
right.
send them estimated progress billings because we're not a bank. So we need money to buy the materials and so forth ahead of time.
Makes perfect sense.
Which are part of it, yeah.
Other questions in regard to anything here on the revenue side of this equation? All funds. Moving on to page 4 is just the equivalent. It's the expenditure side of all funds, all departments. Now, Tony, you had a parks thing you were asking about. This is in here. This is the expense side of parks. I don't remember what the question was. It's the third line, Fund 208 Parks.
I didn't get to ask the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now's the time.
Okay, I see here where we've got the Parks millage. 2018, 2019, 2020, it's going up in 2021 a little bit. My question was more back at the very first document, that 36 capital budget, where you list 4 funds at the top of that page. Technology and equipment fund.
So you want to talk about capital funds? We're going to get to that budget, to that page, though. Almost
Okay, my
there.
question is more is you list 4 different funds at the top of that document, but you only explain 3 of them. And the Parks Improvement and Event Center construction bubbles at the top of that page, one of the 4.
Well, hang on, Tony. We're not
is
on that
never
page
answered.
yet. Nobody's got that page up in front of them here. So
Okay, we'll get to it later, but that
hold your
just-
thought right there a second,
That's
please.
what my question is, that you.
Okay, it's on the capital side. Anyone have questions in regard to the all funds expenditure side of the equation here? Okay, I'm looking to see. I think it's all pretty straightforward. By all means, if you have questions, you can always contact myself or Cecilia at any time, really, truly. Okay, now, Michelle, let's take that down and let's go to the one Tony wants to go to, the capital funds budget document. It's a 5-page document. Let's go to, well, we'll go wherever you want, Tony, but I generally would go to the last page, which is, if you go to the last page of that, it shows all the funds and the monies there. See it? Is that got the question? Is that number in there you're looking for?
Last page now.
See it on the screen?
I see it. I got it on the screen. My question is, if you go to page 1.
Oh. It's not on the last page.
No. Capital funds draft. You got 4
talking
bubbles
about the
there.
little boxes. Okay.
You got 4 little boxes that describe 4 different categories, I assume, of capital funds. You got the Technology and Equipment Fund, the Public Improvement Fund, the Parks Improvement and Event Center Construction Fund, and Jackson County Department of Transportation's. Okay, so you get down into the wording under capital funds. It talks about the 4 funds are listed in that paragraph under the bold text capital fund. But then you get down to where things are underlined. Only 3 of the funds are described here. And so my question is, parks, you've got parks and event center construction together in the same bubble. They're not described in any of these. So I thought the events center was paid for separately and not part of the parks millage. I know a lot of the citizens have voted for that parks millage.
That's correct.
Okay, so what is the
What you're looking at here, Tony, is the capital funds. And so what happens is when the Parks Department does an improvement out at Grass Lake or any park, the Vandercook boat launch, all that stuff, that's all capital. It would be into this capital funds. And we just distinguish them this way here. So they approve that when they have it this recorded this way, it's all capital funds.
Well, when you get on page 3 or 4 of 5, you got the 3 color charts there, the 3 color bars.
Yep.
Public improvement, technology, equipment, and transportation. So once again, that 4th bubble from page 1, Parks and Event Center, isn't described.
Yeah,
So to me,
Cecilia, you want to chime in because
You're listing, you're
kind of
listing
agree with
a
Tony on
fund,
that. Well,
but I'm not
why
seeing
don't
an
we
adequate
break out,
description.
Break out parks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he has a very valid point. But it's not paid for as of right now. There's still an open invoice from what I'm understanding. But I think for 21, that bubble can be taken out because we're not funding it. For 21, it should be, there's not going to be any funding for it. So we can take that bubble off the first page. It was adequate for 21, but it wasn't adequate for, I mean, it was adequate for 20, but not for 21. I agree with you, Tony. Thank you for bringing it up. I'll take that off. And this is why it's a draft. That's why we're reviewing it. And I appreciate your comment.
So it's
I'll definitely fix it.
So it should it just say parks improvement?
No, it shouldn't even say that.
Oh,
It's a totally different fund. That's Fund 402. That's Keeley
Okay.
Park and our Fair Event Center. It was paid for by millage and also delinquent tax funded that.
Right, on page
Not
4
the
of 5.
bond. It was bond. It was the bond, not millage. I apologize. We had a bond that paid for
yes.
half of Keeley Park and the event center, and then we also had naming rights from American One, and then delinquent tax also helped. But for 21, it does
Yep.
need to come off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Looking at, I go back to the last page, page 5, just because it spells that out right there where we're spending money. Questions, anybody in regard to the capital items there? You can see it's very limited compared to what we have spent in the past. Most of this is park projects.
Mike, on page 5,
Yes,
where
sir.
I see the first item, animal shelter building project. Is that
Yes.
coming out of the animal
Shelter millage?
Of the millage?
Yeah, what they've been doing is saving up money, setting money aside so that they can do a construction and remodel project. They went to bid this year. We're too high, so basically we said we need to put it off another year, save some more money because we want to pay cash for that. We don't want to be borrowing money if we can help it.
But still, all of these funds are coming out of the millage, not out of the general fund?
No, we just had that conversation about moving. What was it? 100. It's going to be like 178,000 roughly. I think that's the number right now from general fund to capital.
And then also the technology and equipment, the 564,280 is also coming out of general fund for 21 and also for 20 because of it was in delinquent tax.
Yeah, we had to remove it from
Right,
delinquent.
but there wasn't a millage for technology, was there?
No.
No.
Okay, so the same argument that I have presented previously about parks. Once the voters decide we want a special fund for parks, and the voters put their money in there, allocated that for parks, then parks shouldn't get any money out of the general fund because the voters said you're getting money
But
from
they're
the
not.
millage.
But
We
they're
got
not
general-
getting any money from general fund.
Yeah, we
Okay,
agree
but-
with you, Tony.
But the animal shelter,
They're not receiving any
what-
money from general fund.
what did we get?
Animal
the,
shelter
the
doesn't receive any
millage-
general fund money.
The millage for the
But
animal. What was covered under that millage?
The millage for the animals?
Yeah.
Covers everything animal related. So
Everything animal related.
construction, ACOs, equipment like cars.
Because the voters decided animal shelter is important enough to us. We want a specific fund for that need. Well, then no general fund should go in that.
It doesn't.
I thought you just told me this 317,000 for the animal
Tony?
shelter was coming from general fund.
Tony,
Nope,
Did I
never said
misunderstand
that.
you?
Tony,
Yes,
can I explain? Can I
Please.
explain?
please.
So as we accumulate monies for the project at the animal shelter, in order for the accountability of that monies, it then sets in the building fund for the animal shelter, which is under the purview of the Board of Commissioners, you and me and everyone else sitting on this board. And before that money ever actually gets spent, it's got to come before us with the plan and all the drawings and everything for the remodel of that building. But up until then, we have to have a spot in the budget to hold that money in reserve. And so where we hold it in reserve, because it is a capital improvement item, is in the capital improvement line item. So the money comes from the operations of the animal shelter for revenue, for millage money, for donations, private contributions, everything to do that remodel. And that all sets in that reserve fund until we're ready to do it. Then the Board of Commissioners will vote to move that money to the project. And it'll no longer be in the capital fund. It's just an ongoing way for you and I and the public to see where the money's setting instead of it setting somewhere where nobody knows where it is. Follow me?
Okay, so when constituents question me, are we double dipping? Are we paying a millage for the animal and are we paying general fund for the animal? I can honestly tell them, no, we're not.
Nope, that's correct. We
That's
are not
correct. What you
paying
can
any.
tell them is we have a, Mike, may I finish, please?
Please.
Thank you. Tony, when you're doing these type of projects, you end up banking money over multiple years. And under the accounting system that the county has to operate under, we have to account for all of this. And it needs to continue to appear as a line item as carry forward. And so this is where that money sets. It's just like that, there's still some money up until the electrical incident at the Cascades that people had raised and donated to take care of the Cascades. So
Mhm.
that money is where that account sets. Okay, so we can keep track of it. And it makes it so if people want to donate dollars on behalf of a family member or something like that, then we have an item in capital that it can go to. I know there's a lot of constituents who like our animal shelter and are very, very proud of the work we've done to get to where we are. And they leave money either in their wills or sometimes they just walk out and hand checks to the director. And that money then gets put back in there. So that's how that accumulates. Also, when she has these programs where she's able to be over her budget by a little bit of revenue, she sets that aside also. So that way we get a good accountability of all this.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I too like what our animal shelter is doing. I just want to make sure I can follow the money so I can answer people's questions. Thank you.
Terrific. Other questions in regard to capital projects or anything like that? Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, frankly, I've completed the budget portion. The next step is we've advertised for a public hearing at our study session in October. We will remove the monies for the retiree health insurance, so that will no longer be a part of that budget reduction. And the rest of the numbers should be pretty firm. It looks good, assuming all departments meet their goals and what they've told us, which I expect that they will. We have a balanced budget, and currently we have about an excess of just under 200,000. Correct, Cecilia?
Yes, sorry.
And so if nothing were to change, we would anticipate come, the end of the year that would be added. In this case here, we're proposing to go to capital because we're short on the capital side. And we'll see how it works out. Of course, if SRI comes through, well, that would be another $400,000 we would have available. So hopefully that will happen. Yeah,
Mike.
Commissioner Duck, yes.
Bill Duckham?
Why, we're talking a lot about the capital fund. Do we have a lot of projects lined up for the next year? Or are they just constantly, you're talking constant repair and re-repair of existing?
No, if I may, we ended up paring cap back. We had to do that because there was not enough funds to do those things. So what you see mostly in there on page 5 is parks projects. They have a bunch of people did vote for that millage. They do expect, and rightfully so, improvements across the county in different parks. So there's a number of projects there that are be spending money. But and then the only other things of significance was our IT final installment, I believe, on the IT payment for $500,021.
If I may,
But then
Michael.
that'll be paid for. Yes, sir.
While you're doing a great job digging way down the hole in the weeds, Phil, the reason why we're concerned about capital is because that money strategically came out of the delinquent tax fund, remember? We, in a conservative move, have chosen not to take any money out of our delinquent tax fund until the courts and the legislature corrects the dilemma that was created by the Supreme Court's decision. So we do not have access to the delinquent tax dollars, and we're waiting for all of that to pan out to see what's actually, if anything, is left in that fund after we have to go through whatever machinations and manipulations is decided by the legislature and the courts, sir.
Okay.
That's,
Do you know
that's strategically, that's why we're saying that we need to take money now from ongoing stuff to pay for capital.
good place to save it, I guess. But do you know if there's going to be an appeal of that to the federal court? Or is this as far as that would go?
From what
I've
I've
not
read
heard
and
of
Michael,
any.
yeah, from what Michael and I've read and what Dave and everybody's been nosing around, we're waiting for them to decide how far they want this to go, how far back, how far forward, what the legislature is going to do, that type of stuff. I wouldn't anticipate an answer before mid-November at the soonest. It could be longer than that.
Okay, thank you.
Corey?
Mike, if I heard you correctly, you said there's going to be about $200,000 in the capital fund with what's being proposed here. Am I correct?
Based on the numbers we have right in front of us right now, yes. If the SRI gets resolved, you can add another 4 to that.
Can you tell me roughly in the previous 5 years what you had for each annual budget in the capital fund?
Oh, we spent probably $2 million and as much as $3 million.
Okay.
We're short.
We're short a lot.
Yes, sir, we are. We can postpone certain things for a little while, but eventually those things catch up with you. Now, granted, we have spent a lot of money in these last few years because we had a lot of projects that had been put off, like elevator replacement. We've done most of the elevators. So we shouldn't have to do those again for a long time. I mean, they were original. So because they literally replaced like the tower, they replaced them all. I should say the 2 main ones going, 17 floors. Should not have to do that. So, and I know what I'm concerned about is the more the ongoing annual, we have to buy so many patrol cars a year, things like that. Those things all add up. Mr. Chairman, I think Tony has a question.
then Dave.
Okay, looking at your 2021 capital budget, public improvement fund. The third item down is available for future capital purchases, 285,000. So is that then just for a future not known at this moment expenditure that we're anticipating we're just going to have to make?
What that is as we came into this meeting, that's what the number was until you removed the healthcare portion. So now that 285 is more like 178. And
Okay.
it's just an addition to the capital fund.
Okay, we'll figure out during this next year what to spend it on. It's not allocated.
We won't have
specifically.
any problems with that for sure.
Thank you.
Like, I was just gonna reinforce, you mentioned the SRI of 400. State revenue sharing is another 5, so that puts us above $1 million. And I was also gonna mention what you did about the major projects that we've done through the years. I think have just finished with, or Michelle has, with a major IT project, the elevators and other things that we've done through the years.
IT was 1.5 million, yeah.
Right, so those are good things that are on our side. And Commissioner Pileski can probably speak to this better. And Mike, I don't know how many vehicles we buy per year. Obviously, the important ones are the sheriff's department, which they typically buy, what, 8 or 9 vehicles a year? And I recall what the state does with vehicles is they have a way to allocate it to each department budget, not as a capital, I don't think, but they typically lease from Wheels Incorporated, and each department that uses the vehicles has it come out of their budget in that way versus capital. Maybe that's something we should think about. But to be honest with you, I don't know how many vehicles we replace in the county besides the sheriff department vehicles.
We
That's it for
generally
me.
use our vehicles for most departments, we can use them until they drop. That with patrol cars, vehicles is they're in their 20, those things are 4/7. You know, it's literally their office on wheels versus, the facilities guy, that truck sits idle most of the time. So it'll last. We've had trucks here last 20 years, as you know. And just to be clear, the $500,000 in state revenue sharing, we've accounted for that now. So when I say it's 178 roughly, that includes the balance. So that's already counted for. So right now we're about 178. If the SRI is resolved, we'll be 678 or 578.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did I see anyone else hands up? What I can tell, I think we're complete.
We're complete with the budget portion. There's just a couple items left on the agenda.
The agenda I have has only 2022, the budget discussion.
Oh, okay.
And public
board
comment.
docs here. Public comment and then commissioner comment.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay.
So with that, we'll wander back towards public. Phil, you have something more to discuss?
I didn't want you to dismiss the meeting before public or commissioner comment.
Okay, we'll get you commissioner comments in a moment. So on to public comment. Michelle,
No public comment.
commissioner comments, starting with Phil.
I'd like to thank all the non-Grinch commissioners that wouldn't second Earl's motion. Thank you. That money sounds like nothing to us, but I know for a fact these people use every penny they get. Thank you. Grinch.
Commissioner Elwell, then
I just
Commissioner
wanted-
Pileski.
I just want to thank the administrator's office and Cecilia for all their hard work and department heads and elected officials. I know it wasn't easy, but I appreciate their hard work on the budget as well.
Earl, then Daniel.
So I had to laugh here with my friend, Commissioner Duckham. When I had a bill in the legislature when I was in the State House, then the opponents called the Death Star bill. And so I became Darth Vader in our caucus. And so now I suppose I can add one more evil character to my stable, that being the Grinch. But I'll tell you my view that if I'm either the Grinch or Darth Vader or Scrooge or some other evil character, if I'm attempting to do it in behalf of our taxpayers, I'm not ashamed. Thank you, my friends.
Daniel Mahoney, then Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, say thank you to Commissioner Pileski for the reminder for today's meeting. Apologize for being late. And then I also just wanted to make sure I said thank you to Mike and all of the staff that worked on getting these budget cuts in order so that our budget can be balanced for the year. These are not easy decisions that we are faced with right now in this time. And if it was up to me, we would leave all of the budgets where they are, but we all know that that's not possible. I am happy to hear that some of these issues that have been looming over time are going to be hopefully resolved and will help ease our budget even more, like the SRI situation and some of the other things that we're paying for that are coming to an end. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for the forethought on protecting the money that we were using from the delinquent tax fund to fund our capital improvements and having the forethought to make sure that we're not continuing to spend that money in that way and really trying to figure out what we plan to do to replace that money is something I think we should start thinking about as well. But that would be my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Bear?
I just missed Darius today. I pray he's missed because of a schedule and not because of any ill health for him or his family. So I pray they're all doing well.
Any other commissioner comments? Corey?
And I'd also like to thank Mike, along with the staff. It's never easy being the budget cut people. That being said, Commissioner Pileski, I don't consider you the Grinch. I consider you being fiscally responsible. And I'm seriously concerned about the capital fund. And if the other 8 commissioners aren't, you better start getting because it just takes one major cost and we're in deep trouble. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Mr. Elwell?
Just a last thought that I meant to ask earlier. Mike, can you tell me where the fund balance is percentage-wise? I think our policy is, 18 to 24%? Where will we be at with this budget that we just approved? And also, lastly, I do appreciate from all the commissioners the ability for us to have these discussions civilly and come to a resolution on them. It's nice to be able to do that.
Our fund balance will be right around 19.6% is an estimate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cecilia. So if I may just elaborate a little bit there for Commissioner Kennedy's benefit, while that is a little lower than we would like, and I recognize that we don't have capital dollars coming in, we're gonna, in all honesty, we're gonna have to look at, when we're doing this next year, we're gonna have to make some more cuts or find some more revenue one way or another to prepare for the inevitable something that needs to be replaced. There's no getting around that for sure. But at the same time, if something were to happen right now, we do have millions in the bank in fund balance available if we had to. But it might drop our fund balance down to 12%. We don't want to be anywhere near that low because you start running into cash flow issues potentially. So it sounds more dire than it is. If we had multiple things stringed together, well, then we'd be in trouble. But otherwise, we're in good shape. We're still in the boundaries set by the board policy.
Did a good job, Mike. You and your team did a good job. Everybody did a good job. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Any further commissioner comments? Entertainer motion to adjourn, please. Corey, Phil? All in favor, please say aye or show the sign.
Aye.
Thank you. We are complete.